Hi, I'm Renee Leverrier. I've had, I've had Parkinson's. I was diagnosed in 2006, and I used a service dog. And I'm thankful to the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation for sponsoring this program and for the Hope Conference. And I'm talking about service dogs, and he's right here. This is my second service dog. I've had one now for about 8 years. Look at the camera. Good boy. So I'm going to talk about service dogs and why I chose to get a service dog and some of the other details that might be of interest. And hopefully I'll answer any of your questions that you have as I go through. I have a slideshow and then I'll demonstrate with the dog as well. Okay, Mercy, go lie down. So my first service dog, I'm going to share my screen with you. So I have some PowerPoint slides that have pictures. My first service dog was in 2012. Go lie down. Mercy, go. Good boy. Go. And I chose it because, well, I'm going to get into that story. There we go. There's the slideshow. So that my first service dog is Sir Thomas. That's him on the. Bryson, go lie down. Down. Yes, he's so excited. He wants to work. So this is the one on the right. The Brindle is my current service dog. So I'm going to talk about. I call him Baby Bryson. He's 160 pounds. So I'm going to talk about what the definition of a service dog, and there's a lot of controversy with service dogs and emotional support dogs and airplanes. And so I'm going to clarify some of that and go through, it might seem boring at first, but like the definitions and what the ADA is all about. But then I'll get into the kinds of things that that my service dog does for me and in my Parkinson's symptoms. So let's just get started. It's not moving. Come on. There we go. Sorry, technical. I'm not good at the technical stuff. So this is my first service dog. So what is a service dog? So let's look at the definitions and what a service dog is according to the ADA and how they define a disability. The Americans with Disabilities Act, for anyone who doesn't know ADA. Well, how they define disability and how they define the work and tasks that a service dog does, as well as the regulations, what your responsibilities are. So the really key part of this definition is that the dog is individually trained to work with people with disabilities. Individually trained and disabilities are the key. You have to have a disability to have a service dog. So there's a whole bunch of forms and things that you fill out, and included in that is a doctor's note that says you're disabled and what your condition is. Individually trained doesn't mean the dog is trained by one person, individually. It's a little confusing. It means that the dog is trained for an individual. So my service dog, it cannot help my friend with MS because her dog was trained for her and her needs. My dog was trained specifically for me. He might be of help to someone else with Parkinson's, but not really, because he's trained for me, and someone else with Parkinson's would have a dog trained for them. Since all our symptoms are different, and so individually trained means for the individual. And the ADA defines person with disability as a limited, you're limited in major life activities. And the dog is what is trained to help with those, unlimit those, at least to an extent, those things that you're limited by, and allow you to go back to life activities. So the work that service dogs can do, it's longer than this list. They can be trained to do all sorts of things. The ones that sort of appeal to people with Parkinson's are they can pull a wheelchair, they can turn on lights, open doors, carry items, They can, well, I didn't even put it in here because it's what I use the most. They provide balance and stability. He can get me out of a freeze. I walk with him if I'm feeling really off and unbalanced, and he provides balance. He weighs 160 pounds and I don't. So, I can tip over and he's going to hold me down. So I won't tip over because I'm holding on to him. So here's an example of what a dog would be trained for, and the work or tasks that they can do. So my dog, for example, is specifically trained for to aid with balance. So under the ADA, a service dog must be allowed to accompany their person, their partner, their handler, anywhere that a person could go, any other person could go in public. And if you insert a wheelchair or cane, then that's exactly where the dog can go. It's the same thing. And that includes all these places. It includes hospitals, and even though the hospital staff may not always know that, obviously not in like the operating room, but these are all the places that service dogs are allowed to be in. If someone is afraid of the dog, or there's, someone says, I don't want to be in this restaurant with this dog here. The ADA trumps all of it. They do say, if you has an allergy and someone who's allergic in the room, that you want to accommodate for them if you can, but in the end, the dog trumps. So whenever I've run into issues, and it's not been very often, but whenever I've run into issues where I've had the dog by my side and someone says, dog can't come in here, I'll say it's a service dog, and they don't say anything else, but the service dog is allowed anywhere that anybody else is allowed, because that person with the service dog is allowed. Now, there are things that you have to look out for and things you have to be responsible for. But I love this quote from George Bush when he signed the American with Disabilities Act. And the point is, it's not about the dog, it's about access. The dog helps provide access. So that's, I just love that quote. So what the handler has to be able to do is, the dog must be under control. Now, service dogs are, if you get the one through an agency or a trainer, they're incredibly well trained. You can train your own as well if you're up to it. There's always a little bit of training. It's like a kid, he's reminding them please and thank you. So you kind of have to keep up with some of the training reminders, especially during COVID. I haven't gone anywhere, so he hasn't had that much, opportunity to do his service. He does a lot around the house, but out in public. So I'm going to have a lot of retraining to do, I think, when it's time to go back out in the world again. But the handler is responsible to keep the dog leashed. We call it 4 on the floor. Their feet, they should never be up on any of the furniture in a restaurant. Sometimes you'll see service dogs like in the booth next to someone. That's a service dog. That's not a real, if there's not 4 on the floor, then they're not, it's not a service dog. They won't have an expandable leash either. And think about it, if you want the dog right by your side. So I've seen that in airports before. People with their expandable leash and the dog's way ahead. It's got a little service dog vest on. It's like non-service dog. But anyway, me as a handler, my responsibilities are to make sure I've got the dog leashed and he's not gonna. Usually the best compliment is when I get up in a restaurant, back when we used to go to restaurants, and someone would look over and say, and the dog would get up and someone would say, I didn't know there was a dog in here. So that's my favorite. Like, I view that as a compliment, because he's supposed to just sort of, disappear. They call it learned boredom, achieving boredom, I think they call it. You know, it's like they should just be there, and whole time you're sitting having your coffee, or and that's what he does. There's policies if you're going into a hotel or anywhere that you go, the staff may not ask anything about your disability. You know, they can't ask for medical documentation. There's no certification. There's nothing that the disabled person needs to present to anyone. They don't need to, the dog doesn't need to, you know, show what it can do. They're not allowed to ask any of those questions. They are allowed to ask if the dog is a service animal required because of a disability. The required because of a disability part is essential to screening out the service dogs and non-service dogs, because people try and get the service dog, you know, a pet, you know, onto the airplane, or, you know, all the controversy that's out there now. So is the dog a service animal required because of a disability? Someone might ask, is this a service animal? And the person might say yes, lying through their teeth. But if you add the part required because of a disability, people might hesitate there to lie that they're disabled, because, you know, if they're going to do that, then, you know, strike them down. But anyway, the person, if you do have a business, you know, in your screening, that's what you can ask. Is the dog a service animal required because of it? You can't ask what the disability is, just required because of a disability. And you can ask what work or task, and you know, I would say he's for balance. So those are the two things that they're allowed to ask. Businesses can ask someone to leave, you know, a restaurant or shopping place. I've had this happen in grocery stores. I've been in a grocery store with my dog, and someone has a little, you know, little fluffy in their purse in the shopping cart. And I walked by, and little Fluffy lunged, and it's like, okay, she had the little service dog vest on, and she got asked to leave the grocery store. So those are some of the things that if your dog is not able to, you know, not bark, not jump on furniture, is not housebroken, then he's not, business have the right to not accept you. So now, why did I get a service dog? Let me explain the Great Cane incident, as opposed to the Great Dane, which is what my dogs are. I decided I was getting kind of wobbly years back before Sir Thomas, my first service dog. And so I said, oh, I'll use a cane. You know, I got a fancy one that had flowers on it and everything. And I was at the airport. I nearly took out a whole row of people. I started to stumble, and I was stumbling on the other side than the cane was. So I'm leaning back, and my cane's still in my hand as I'm falling, and it's like taken out, and I almost took out a whole line. So that was the Great Cane incident. And so I decided to switch from a cane to a Great Dane. And the reason why I chose a Great Dane, and there are many breeds that can work as a service dog, but the Great Danes, they're tall, they're lazy, which means it's easy for them to fall asleep, you know, next to you at the restaurant. They're like little people in dog outfits. But and also there was a place near me at the time that trained Great Danes for service dogs, and they're the perfect height for mobility. They can be trained for mobility if you're ambulatory, if you're walking and you can use it for balance. They also be trained to pull a wheelchair and aid with transfer from a wheelchair to a chair. So I'm gonna go through my experience, all the great things, but I also want to mention like things to think about. So I have the ABCs, the all, the good, the by the way, and the care. So let's look at all the good stuff, and then I'm going to demonstrate some of the things he does for me. So service dogs are, it's amazing what they can be trained to do. I said that before, but it is wonderful. But this is for for Parkinson's, for the motor skill problems, he can brace to lean on. He acts as a cane, but he's better than a cane, because like my great cane incident where I was leaning to the other side and nearly clocked everybody. He's not going to go anywhere. So if I start falling the other way, I grab onto his harness, and he's so solid, and I can weeble all over. He just sort of braces and holds me stable. You know how we tend to fall backwards. I can sort of fall that way, and he won't go anywhere. He can help with freezing. I haven't trained him yet to pick up things because I don't. Well, actually, I have. He's gone. He'll get my slippers. So I'm starting to train him to pick things up. And you make it fun, but they can pick up your keys. They can. Again, I haven't taught him to open doors or anything yet, because I'm not to that point. I don't need that, but the dog can be taught that. And the added bonus for performing tasks, they're there to help you, you know, in a heartbeat, and you don't have to feel like you're always asking your caretaker. You know, it's like it relieves them a little bit if you have a caretaker at home, or a spouse, or, you know, family member. They're not gonna, you know, sigh and say, oh, not again. They're always going to be there, and without judgment. And it has increased my independence. I don't have to worry about, am I going to go and have an off time while I'm out and not be able to move. I mean, I'd still be stuck at like a yoga studio and a shopping plaza if it weren't for the dogs. You turn off and you freeze and you can't move. These dogs have gotten me out of those situations, so I don't have to rely on, you know, calling my husband or something. So it has seriously increased my independence. But note that they're not, they provide companionship, but that is not their sole purpose. That's just a bonus. They're not companion dogs. Because in the world of the lingo about assistance dogs, there are companion dogs, and they do not get the same rights as service dogs. So those are all those wonderful things. And but you want to consider some of the pieces that go with this. I mean, you bring a dog, especially a big dog, if you decide on a big dog. Bring a big dog in the house, and you've got another being. I mean, it's like he's and I've got two of them now, because my first one is retired, but he's still with us. So sometimes they block the hallway, but you know, you have to schedule time in. You got to get the harness on and load them and unload from the car, and make sure they have water, and there's food, and leashes, and poop bags, and big dogs make big poops. So you know, it's another thing to keep in mind. Also, you know, you have to remember their schedule when you're out and about. When their feeding times are, you know, have you given them a chance to go outside and do their business? You have to think about being early, because you never know, wherever you're going, you never know if there's going to be an issue with the person not understanding ADA regulations, and some places only have limited space to put a service dog. So all these things to consider schedule wise, and they expect to be with you 24/7. So don't leave home without him is true. You know, I love my husband, but he doesn't follow me to the bathroom. This dog is with me 24/7. So it's you become like partners. It's glued to your side. I was never wide, and now I am. The cost of a service dog is most organizations donate the dogs. They might ask for fundraising so that your funds that you raise go to the next dog that gets trained for the next person. But there's sort of hidden fees, you know, there's vet fees, food, general care, grooming, harnesses, tags. That I believe all those items for a service dog are tax deductible. But I needed a new car. I used to have a station wagon, and I got a second grade Dane, and they didn't fit. I now have a minivan for the dog. The whole back is a big mattress for the dogs. So just the things you have to think about. And also, as wonderful as they are, they're not going to, having a service dog is not going to change your diagnosis or replace the meds or prevent falls. And truthfully, initially they cause them before they're fully trained or used to your house. I mean, they'll like run up to you and knock you over. And so it's, it's wonderful now, but in the beginning it's hard. And they're still dogs. And so there's some things to think about that, they're not going to fix everything. And then remember their care. Training reminders, I can't emphasize it enough. It's working on the training all the time. And they get time off too, time to just like be goofy dogs. So it can be a big responsibility because they're big dogs and they don't require a lot of exercise, these particular dogs, but they need to go out and walk, which is good because they might go out and walk. But the trade-off for me, you have to consider the trade-off, but the trade-off for me is well worth it because he provides so much help, in the house, outside the house. Before I go into some of the service dog background, I'm going to demonstrate a couple of things. So I'm going to try and get back out of this screen share and so you can see the dog and how he helps me. Let me see if I can fix this. Okay. Right. So I'm going to try and angle my camera so you can see what he does for me. Bryce. Good boy. So I'm going to first show how he can help me out of a chair. I'm feeling fine right now, but I'll fake that I'm off and and I'll have him do what he does. Could you step back? Good boy. Gracie, hold. So I can grab his hand. I'm going to turn this a little bit so you can see. You're just bored. Okay, step over. I'm trying to angle it so you can see. So I have a harness on him. And I can just pull, Gracie, hold. And I can just pull and get myself out of the chair. Gracie, back up. I'm going to turn this now. You can see how he walks with me. And Gracie, turn. Good boy. Let's turn around and face the camera. There we go. Good boy. Gracie, close. Come close. Good boy. You're not close enough. Side, close. Excellent. Gracie, step forward. So he steps forward and he sort of propels me forward. So if I'm in a freeze, step back. Back. So if I'm in a freeze and my feet are stuck to the floor, I'm going to move this chair so you can see. And my feet I'm in slippers, it's COVID time. If my feet are stuck to the floor, that frozen feeling, Gracie, step back. Step forward. Gracie, step back. Sometimes I need that swaying. Gracie, step forward. Gracie, step back. Okay, forward. And then he'll get me going. Good boy. You're just bored. Step back. And so that's how you can get me out of a freeze. Back. And when I'm unstable and I'm walking and I'm like, I can lean. Gracie, hold. I can fall backwards. And he holds on. Gracie, turn. Good boy. I can go sideways. He's going to hold on. Hold. I can fall this way. I can falling. And he's not going anywhere. Good boy. Good hold. Okay. Step back. Good boy. Now if I'm going to sit in a chair, I can also use him again. Gracie, forward. Good boy. Whoa. So I'm going to sit in the chair and I'm going to hold, so Sometimes when you're so unstable, I can hold on to him and I can sit down. Good boy. I don't know if you can see that. All right, now you have to go lie down. Gracie, good boy. You're a good boy. I can show you. He's coming in for a hug. I can also show you how I can get off the floor. Gracie. Okay, back up. So you can see his harness now. Gracie, back up. Back. So I can be on the floor and just like climb up on him. Let's turn around. Turn. Okay, hold there. So if I'm down on the floor, for whatever reason, either I fell or, so I can just sort of use him, if there's no furniture around, I can use him and just climb up on him and get off the floor. So he's great for preventing falls. And if I do fall or I'm on the floor for another reason, he can help me back up. And he'll come from wherever he is, he'll come. If he's, happens to be lying on his bed, you gotta go lay down now, okay? You did great work. Now go lay down. Yeah, you gotta go lay down. Yes, indeed. Good boy, go. Come on. Gracie, go. Good boy. So those are some of the things that he does for me. Back to the slides because I want to talk about the training. And training is a 2-year process usually. So the waiting time from puppy to service dog is about 2 years. So let's go back. I'm sharing the screen again. We'll go back to just some of the training that's involved. There are agencies, and I have a list of resources at the end that will tell you about the different agencies. Lie down. But what am I trying to say? It's not just the training. It's also it can very often be the breed, and it's very much the temperament. The temperament of the dog is as important as the training. This little puppy here was a puppy that we helped train Tobias is now a service dog, and we did the puppy training for him. So anyway, you want to match the dog to the tasks. There are some dogs that are better for hearing dogs. There are some dogs that are better for sniffing dogs. That might sniff. Like someone with diabetes, they might be able to sense the insulin levels. The big guys are good for balance and support and pulling a wheelchair. They're also can be trained to retrieve stuff. Some of the smaller dogs are great for retrieving and turning on lights. You don't really want to get a rescue dog. People think that's so wonderful, and that they hear the story of a dog that was abused and now he's a service dog. Service dogs need to have predictable temperaments. If you're going to climb up on them, if you're going to expose them to all the places you go, you have to know he's not going to lunge at anybody, so their temperament has to be incredibly non-aggressive. They have to be. A lot of service dogs fail, and even in puppyhood, because they have food aggression. So they can't be aggressive at all. So if you're thinking, will my dog make a good service dog? If it's not aggressive and it's predictable and easily trained and can achieve boredom, then maybe. It's just a unique combination. This one is going again. Hold on. There we go. So they get all sorts of training. You gotta go lay down. Go on, go, Brycey, go. Good boy. Go. Sorry, he wants to help so much. They all go through rigorous training. There he is, achieving boredom. So I hear people say, oh, he's so well behaved. It's like, of course he is. He's well trained. He's a service dog. But they go through socialization, public access, obedience training, and then after that, They go through specialized training for the disability. And there are people who train for Parkinson's. So you can get a dog trained especially for Parkinson's. And then it gets trained after it graduates all those levels. The next level is they get individually trained for that person. To get a dog, you want to identify an agency or breeder, and many of them will ask for an annual review of your training and skills. You know, they not necessarily, but some will. So it's just keeping up the training, and I think that's all I have to say about training. But it takes about 2 years, and the cost to the agency is roughly $25,000. So that's why even if they give them away free, they want or request fundraising, you know, to keep them going for the next dog. I'm just going to give a quick. Gracie, you got to go lie down. Go on. Good boy. Different kinds of assistance animals and where service dogs fit in there. How to interact with the person with a service dog and in case of emergency. And there's the big controversies out there with people faking their dog, you know, as a service dog or emotional support dog. And I'm going to go through the differences because service dogs are they're the ones that get the PhDs. All the other dogs may not have even made it out of grammar school. The seeing eye dogs, they've got the PhD and the MD, and the guide dogs are the highest on the echelon, but the service dogs are right on up there. But the other service dogs, guide dogs, are a kind of service dog. But a dog whose sole comfort is to provide comfort is not given. They're not service dogs under the ADA. So that's an example. Emotional support dogs are not given the same rights under the ADA either because they're not used for someone with a disability. They don't require any kind of training, and so you can't tell if they're going to be predictable. The dog will be predictable and well trained. Therapy dogs are incredibly well trained, but the difference is they're not individually trained. They're trained to provide comfort for groups. They're not individually trained for a person, so there's no need for that person to have that dog there to do their daily activities, life activities. You're not showing those that you're very well behaved because you're not going and lying down, buddy. Yes. Okay, you gotta go lay down now. Go lay down now. Good boy. Sorry, interrupted by the dog. See, there's some of the things you have to worry about. Therapy dogs are great and well behaved, but they don't have access rights. So this chart sort of shows the level of training and what regulating agency. I just threw that in there so you can see service dogs are. That's why the service dogs get access. I'm so often approached by people with my dog because he's handsome and they want to ask about him, but anytime he's distracted, he's a dog. He's gonna potentially not do his job. And when he doesn't do his job, he's not gonna hold me up and I might fall over. So when working with a service dog and their handler, people should not shouldn't interrupt or interfere. And it's very happy and nice and they want to know about the dog, but you really shouldn't be interrupting. And I like to add, like I said before, insert wheelchair or cane. So can I get a picture of you with your cane? It would be the same thing, and oh, can I pet your cane? So that's what I like to sort of put in there. And you wouldn't make kissy sounds, my cane. So those are these are all the things that when I talk about service dogs in the general public and try and say, you know, he's working. Service dogs are not pets, and they're like, you know, they're sort of like your arm or your leg. And so they're supposed to, if in case of emergency, that dog needs to go with you. And this is an example of the dog is trained and will be sitting right there next to you. So it's just another thing to think about when if you have a service dog, it's with you all the time, even in an ambulance. Hopefully that never happens, but so in summary, service dogs perform tasks that you can't do. You know, it's like he helps me. And I can go to grocery shopping and not worry about it. I can go to my yoga class and not worry about it. There's all sorts of things they could be trained to do, even get it specifically trained for you for where you are now. And a couple of years from now, you've got other symptoms, and it can be trained to help with those too. There's no licensing, no certification, so no one can ask you for your papers. And here's some resources if you're interested in getting and looking into a service dog. The International Association of Assistance Dog Partners is kind of a clearinghouse for all the agencies. You can look up by region, you can look up by disability, you can look up by breed of dog. So it's a very useful resource to go to. And that is all. Hope I answered all your questions and addressed all the good things about service dog without being too rose-colored glasses, because there are the parts where we have to take care of them and, you know, have a big dog in the house. So thank you for your time and hope you enjoy your dog. Thank you.